but he would charge me more.
How much more do you think? Just as a guesstimate.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, give me a minute. Probably between 5,000 and 8,000, someplace in that range.
Total, I mean, for the year?
I think so, and that's a guess, but probably between $5,000 and $8,000.
And then, how are we doing with just the 3 buses?
It's working.
It's working?
Yeah.
So when we talk about the $140,000, cutting that,
Mhm.
that's for all 4 buses? And for
That
all
was, and you're right, but since then, in the governor's proposal, the balance, he's talking about doubling the amount of money we pay for transportation. So instead of it being 140 for 4 buses, he's talking about it being 280
280 for 4 buses.
for 4 buses. So in effect, for us, it would be someplace around, probably 220 for 3 buses, someplace around there.
How many kids actually take the bus? Do you know?
3
Like-
buses worth.
Like 500
No, 250.
250.
Right, we'll make that in a meeting with the bus drivers, and we're hoping for some kind of reroute the kids. And they were pretty much within 10 of maxing out each bus. And the 72.
You can, 71 passengers max per bus, and yeah, the Westfield routes are closing in on that. There's usually about 60 riding on that, or slated to ride on that, and they don't always ride every day. North Prairie's below that by a bit too.
So there's, I mean, and I guess what I'm trying to reason in my mind is that, you know, if we were, and I'm just doing rough math being
Sure.
that, you know, if you had the 140,000 and it's divided by 4 buses, that's about $35,000 a bus. If we went down to 3 buses, it's about $105,000. And but in my mind, I'm thinking, well, if there's 500 students, you know, we would give the option perhaps to the parents to pay for the busing. But so now what I'm understanding is that the price is actually doubled and it's considerably less than students. So I mean, really, no family would even be able to afford 1 child, let alone 2 or more.
No, it would be bus prohibitive to offer.
Because it would be about $210 a student if it was the 105 divided by the 500 students. So that's considerable.
Yeah, it'd be closer to 500 probably.
Yeah.
With what they're projecting. And I don't know what they're going to do in Illinois, but I do know that he has said in his budget that he was going to double the amount that we would have to be paying for the transportation. So the best guess you have would be about $220,000 probably for 3 buses.
So he's doubling how much he's cutting.
Right.
So he's cutting half. Could be more than double what we pay.
Yeah.
And then, so, in addition to all of this, I mean, have we made great strides to talk to the community service officer in Winthrop Harbor to, you know, and maybe to even get a preliminary plan for drop-offs and stuff like this? I mean, do we have something?
We've got a parent meeting scheduled for the 18th of May, and the parents are going to come in and look at ways that maybe they can help each other with the transportation piece, whatever that is.
I also spoke to prior to the referendum, said I would contact him after, one of the officers that does, he did the pickup procedures and planning for St. Pat's.
Right.
They had some, you know, real issues in terms of where they're located and such, and so he said as soon as we were ready to sit down and kind of go through and look at it to try to come up with a plan that would be most efficient, he would be happy to help work through that.
And, you know, I'm really scared about the fact that if we were to have another snowstorm,
Sure.
like we did this year, and we have kids walking, and, you know, the roads were narrow as it was. I mean, we would ultimately, you know, have to probably cancel schools until we get, I mean, we could essentially lose a lot of school days until we get the roads cleared. They're going to be walking down the side of the roads, you know, even if they do widen the roads, because they're not going to be able to get to the sidewalks. You know, and I'm really extremely concerned about this. I mean, I just really feel that this is, you know, detrimental.
Any other questions? Looking for a motion to reinstate regular transportation for next school year.
motion to reinstate.
Second.
Leach.
What was the second?
Rick said he seconded, so we can vote.
So the motion is to
Reinstate.
reinstate.
Yes.
No.
Thompson. Young.
No.
Zimmerman.
No.
Georgia.
Yes.
Heine.
No.
Lambert.
No.
Okay, superintendent report, ready to go?
Yep. I'm going to have for next time, and again, it's not information action, so I'm giving it to you as information now. I'm going to have a recommendation for help keys, the same price we're paying them this year, $55,000. We bid it last year, had companies come in and went through and came to that number. So I'll be bringing you that as an action item at the next board meeting. It's the same price we paid this current year. Spring Bluff is sold, so I shared that with the board in Friday phone call. Multi-district board meeting, time change, it's May 2nd at 6:15. The lunch prices, and I have that in here for you, that we paid $3.25 this year, and we'll be raising it, my recommendation, from $3 to $3.50. Student performance, we're doing real well academically at this time, and we met at the end of the third 9 weeks, so that's the benchmark for you. Each 9 week, we look at how students are doing and which students may be academically falling behind. At this point, it looks like potentially we have 2 students that will be looking at retaining. So that's for us it's not a good number, but it's a reasonable number. One of the students is a second grader, and we picked him up probably a month or 6 weeks ago, and he's quite far behind. And so the likelihood of getting him to a spot that's reasonable isn't very good, so he's likely candidate. But we have only 2 students at this point, and that's, I consider that a reasonable spot. Also, Svengros, and they came here and met with us. They have a student who's autistic, and the student goes to the to Our Lady, the OLH, and has been for probably 6 or 7 years. And last year we paid $17,000 for the aides that were there. This year I've negotiated with him that it would be about $10,000 that we would pay. If he came here, I would have to have a full-time aide with him. I would have to send the aide for training specifically related to his disability and the systems that he uses. And the training that the aide he now uses was done in Texas, and so very likely we have to do that as well. So my recommendation for the board would be that we pay the $10,000, and this is his, next year would be his 7th grade, and the next year would be 8th grade, rather than have him come back, because I think it would cost us more. And the other piece is, if he did come back and the parents weren't completely happy with it, they could request to have him go to CEDAW. He's a very likely candidate for that, and it would probably cost about $25,000 plus potentially another $15,000 for transportation. So the $10,000 is like a little bit of an insurance policy. Final tax extension, and there's information on that for the board members. Final tax extension of $5,150,138,061. And we expect to get the first major payment 40% in June. There's information in here on Mama's Run, which is in Zion in May, I think. Class sizes for next year, and kindergarten looks like potentially 23, although kindergarten registrations are up, so we could be potentially having to add another teacher at this point for kindergarten. First grade 23, second grade 22, third grade 28, fourth grade 30, fifth grade 31, 32, sixth grade 31, 32, seventh grade 28, 29, and eighth grade 25, 25, 24. alarm system at Westfield, and we're looking at continuing that. I got a second price on it, and I'll have prices for the board at the next meeting. I think the one price I have is $46,000. The other one looks significantly less, but the individual's coming out to take a look at the work and try to make sure that the price really is the number he's looking at for us. And that's a Friday phone call.
Thank you. You're looking for a motion to go into closed session for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district.
And that was on there in case there was in case the board wanted to go in. So I don't know
Anything
what
you
this
want
one.
to talk about
I don't know.
that,
I
or
don't know. At this point, I didn't, but I thought, well, potentially people are personnel or whatever, and I wanted to have it there in case you wanted it. But it's not something at this point that we have a need for necessarily.
okay? Somebody wants to make a motion, go ahead. If not, please skip it.
I have a question. Who's supposed to sit at this table? As far as the people on board, who are the people that are supposed to sit at this table?
The board, the administrators, and the
Okay. So, and the principals?
yeah, the administrators, correct?
Okay.
Because we looked at them for some questions.
And is everybody sitting at the table here, a board member, an administrator, or a principal?
Or the board secretary?
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, with that, I'll be looking for a motion for adjournment.
I'll motion to adjourn the meeting.
Giorgio.
Yes.
Tiny.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Leach. Thompson. Young.
Yes.
Zimmerman.